Future.
All grit.
Evolution.
All grit. All right, F-bombs are us this morning. I'm sure you guys all heard that one. I am not happy this morning. I apologize. We are having nothing but issues. We were up here till 11 o'clock last night, fixed everything. Everything was working great. And then you wake up, and it's like a Monday, but it's Tuesday. But it's like a Monday, right? But it's Tuesday. But it's, you know what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
A little Seinfeld shout out there. So anyway, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. We're going to get it rolling today. Got a few assets built in the studio, so hopefully things work well, but you know how that's going to go more than likely. But we'll find out. We're at least try. We're at least going to try. Eric, good morning. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic this morning. I got a smile on my face. I'm going to keep it positive. This is the one edition where we're going to scream and shout on the morning show.
I'm driving up to Brimley today, and we are going to exercise your gremlins.
Here, we can do something with them. Where'd he go?
No, just leave them buried.
See, he's right here.
Yeah. So this morning we've got a decent little show started for you today anyway, but here we go. Today's roster, we've got Darius Slays the Fans. I don't know if you guys saw that already, but it was on the Greenlight podcast to talk about that. Wingo is winning. And like I was speaking about last week, I expect Wingo to be a breakout player this year. He's my dark horse. Rookie, even though he was selected in the 6th round, I think he's much better than that. Lions O-line is officially ranked number 1 in the league. Kelce daps up Sam LaPorta at tight end university. And what else did I have here this morning? I had, we'll talk about the Lions offensive line. Have they constructed the most potent offense in the league? That is another topic that didn't make the roster this morning, but it's going to be a light edition. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors this morning. Sports Spider, please do us a favor and check out sportspider.com. If you guys want to get all of your sports in one place, sportspider.com is the place to do that. And of course, YOOPERLITES. Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about YOOPERLITES?
Yeah, so YOOPERLITES is your one-stop shop for the best in UV lights and rock hounding gear. So if you want to go out and find those glowing rocks, the Convoy C8, the YOOPERLITE Mini, the Max UV Plus, they're all the best lights. They're all available in Brimley at the shop and online at YOOPERLITES.com.
All right, let's get it going this morning. So hopefully that was smooth. I have no idea what happened. So we'll have to look back later and see how it went. So how's everybody doing in the chat this morning? We got a full show today. We've got Tracy in the house getting us kicked off. Eric's in the house. Rick, Wayne Rogers, Big Moose 88, Moonscar Blade, Roger Chappis. Roger got your email. We're going to put that to use tomorrow. Thank you for mailing in some mailbag information to us. And new emails are being started today, so we should have the mailbag email up and running by tomorrow is the goal. And that way you guys can send us emails on topics that you want to talk about and that you want to hear on the show. Who else is in here today? We have Wayne Rogers, Jack 2125, Derek W, Mr. Morale Tarantino, and Shane Smith, Dennis Tidick, Mike P, Hostage 42. What happened to Hostage 41 or 43? You were the 42nd? I'm curious about the backstory here. So let's kick it off this morning. Darius Slays the Fans. See what I did there? Former Detroit Lion cornerback, criticizes the Detroit Lions fans for booing none other than Matthew Stafford. Now, this has been a long story topic since, when was that? January 8th, January 9th, whenever the playoff game was. I don't know why these topics keep coming up. I don't know why people keep talking about it. I know it's the dead season, but come on, can we just put this to bed? Or can we? I don't know if it can be put to bed because we're going to see Matthew Stafford week 1. So I think it's going to kind of be relived all over again. So former cornerback Darius Slay, another Eagle, as we all know, CJ Gardner-Johnson also had some choice words for the Lions fans, not only when he left, but also talking about some of the things that transpired while he was a Detroit Lion. So anyway, Darius Slay, now Philadelphia Eagle, been there for a while now, wasn't real thrilled with seeing how Stafford was treated or received by the fans, and something he recently expressed on the Green Light podcast with Chris Long. Here was his statement. He says, "I'm the biggest fan of Stafford because I played with him for 7 years. And I am a fan of Detroit. Man, too as well. Only thing I did not like about what Detroit did is when they said they booed him coming out." I don't know why he said they said this, but I understand it's the players, but Staff did a lot. Stafford is who he's talking about. He done took a lot of beatings for that city. He ain't never had none of the best O-line like that line got now. I don't know about the grammar there, but here's my final take on this. The boos were what they were. Eric, I don't know if you saw this or heard this podcast, but I watched it again this morning. I don't feel like these boos should be taken as any indication or indictment upon Lions fans that we don't like Stafford. Now, I know that there's been some that have had some choice words for Matthew Stafford, that he's not a Lion anymore and blah, 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 blah. But he was, and he did a lot for the city. He did a lot for the team. But yes, when he enters Ford Field, you better believe that we are rooting for our team and we are rooting for our quarterback. And it's not like we don't appreciate what he did for the franchise. I think that 90% of us in here would agree with that. I feel the reaction was more likely just a result of the situation, Eric. I don't know what you think, but I feel like, this is the first situation that the Lions were in a long time, being in a playoff game at home since 93 versus the Packers. This was a huge game, not just for fans, but the city and the team, the organization. We talked about the curse the other day. The gremlins that have been following this team for a long time. This was a big to-do for us. So the fans were amped up. They were on their ether, as I like to call it. And the situation just, I guess, got where it got to. He got booed. I don't think that we booed the kids. I think that's, way off the rocker by Kelly Stafford, which I'm not surprised. But if you were there, if you were at the game and you didn't boo Stafford, you were a Rams fan. I'm sorry. Because everyone else there had their moment. It's not like it was, egregious and out of control. It was, we were rooting for our team, rooting for Jared Goff. That's my final statements. I'm putting it to bed. Eric, take it away.
Yeah, I was there. I was at the game. There was no way I was not booing the other team when they came out. It wasn't that I was booing Stafford per se. I was booing the Rams. Okay. So was the other 65,000 people at the stadium that day. We were all booing the Rams. We didn't care who the quarterback was coming out. Stafford doesn't play for us anymore. Goff plays for us now. We were trying to show support for our guy, Goff. For 2-3 hours before the game, there was Goff chants going off. And listen, I did a little research about good old Darius Slay today. So back in March, he made a bunch of comments about how bad the fans are in Philly and how they have the worst fans in the NFL and that they don't support their team or their players. And the only people they ever supported were Jason Kelce and the other guy that retired. And other than those two guys, everybody else they don't care about, and they don't support their own players anyway. And so he's already talking crap about his own team that he's on right now. He doesn't. He's been driving me nuts lately. I don't get this whole I'm pissed off about Stafford getting booed thing. Guess who's going to get booed again come September, the first Sunday in September there, where we get to play at home once again against Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. And I can guarantee I will be there probably in the same seat I was in before. And I'm going to be cheering Jared Goff for the first 2 hours before the game. I'm going to be cheering his name on the way to the stadium, just like I did on the way to the stadium for the playoff game. That is going to be such a playoff game feel to it, especially since they put us back to back where we're going Rams, Tampa Bay. So it's just like the 2 playoff games again. It's going to be playoff atmosphere for those first 2 games. You watch, it is going to be just like a playoff game. The Lions are going to come out to play just like a playoff game. It's going to have the feel. It's going to have the aura in the stadium, everything.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing kickoff to the season, to be honest with you. I expect nothing less from the fans than to be ready, to be amped up, to be on their ether, to be ready to go. Ford Field is going to be rocking. I feel like never before seen in the first 2 weeks of the season. I think that we're going to break the decibel records again that we did last season. It's going to be absolutely insane. So shout out to the chat here. Rick says Matthew Stafford left us. Why would we welcome him back with open arms? Moonscar Blade says darn straight, but this was the first home playoff game in forever. Braylon Dennis says we are not going to cheer for the enemy. Mark Paget says, what did Pad Stafford do? Win a playoff game? No. Wayne Rogers says, how soon they all forget the support from the Detroit fans during their Super Bowl run. Lions fans love Lions. He was the enemy in that game. See, I mean, people get it. I was one rooting for the Rams. A matter of fact, I said that the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl that year, and they did. And I was all in on them winning, and it wasn't because of just Matthew Stafford. The Rams had a great team, and the whole Matthew Stafford trade just kind of made it a little bit better. We knew we were going to have a bad squad, and we have something to watch that year, and obviously we had a bad season. So the watching of Matthew Stafford win a Super Bowl kind of gave us something to cheer for. But, you know, now that we've got our pieces in order, it's Lions fans are bust, man. I mean, it's our team, and that's what we're going to root for. So no shade to you, Matthew Stafford. That's not what this is all about. What this is all about is we're just fans rooting for our team, and you better believe it happens to every quarterback, every team that comes into Ford Field. You know that. You were there. It's just different now. I don't know how to explain it, then it's just different because, well, we're actually good for once. So we're feeling a little bit better. You know, we woke up. Let's put it that way. And I don't mean that by any other sense of the term. We've woken up. We're not in the deep slumber anymore because our team is just going through the motions like they were when he was the quarterback, it seemed like. So that's it. Darius Slay slays the fans. But he did it kind of in a respectful way, too. I mean, he wasn't really being extremely negative. He just didn't understand it. He felt like Stafford did a lot for this city. And look, he did. How many quarterbacks do you know completely separate their shoulder and all they want to do is get back on the field to make the game-winning play?
Yep.
You know, I mean, not many quarterbacks are built that way. And Stafford was definitely built different. He is going to feel it, man, when he retires. But he put a lot on his shoulders and his back, literally broke his back in Detroit. So shout out to Stafford, man. It's not about you anymore. Sorry. It's about Jared Goff, who is our leader, and it's about our team, and Dan Campbell, our head coach. So we plan on kicking your butt week 1. So come on back and feel it again. So yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So when he retires, I tell you what, I'll be first in line to be there to go see him, go into the Hall of Fame, and be in the Ring of Honor for the Lions. Sure, I'll go. I'll wholeheartedly go and cheer him on then. But until then, no way. I'm done. I'm done cheering for Stafford. I'm not going to cheer for the Rams anymore. In 2021, when the Lions were 3-13-1, it made for a lot of fun that Super Bowl season. It was a lot of fun to root for the Rams that year. And, you know, I was getting over losing my favorite Lions player at that time. Stafford was my favorite Lions player for a long time. He really won me over when he went back into that game against Cleveland and separated his shoulder and came back in and won the game. And it was all mic'd up. It was the longest mic'd up segment ever for NFL films. And it was absolutely amazing. You know, he just won me over, and I wish him nothing but luck except for against the Lions.
That's right. So next up, we've got Wingo is winning, and this is a big one. I feel like we're kind of on the cusp here of seeing some rookies that have been drafted later in the rounds really have an impactful season, and I think that Wingo is one of those players this year that could embody what a true late round gem is. And there's been a couple of stories that have been written about him over the last couple of weeks, but I wanted to highlight this one from Justin Rogers. As we know, Justin Rogers is retiring or has left his post with the Detroit News. Not sure where he's going. I think that there was some things that he was going to talk about when he finally leaves, which I think was done at the end of June. I'm not real sure, but Justin Rogers is leaving the Detroit News. So let's highlight his, well, I guess it can't be the end of June because he wrote this on July 1st. So let's highlight his article here. He's talking about Lions impressed by rookie Mekhi Wingo's advanced fundamentals and rare explosiveness. Everything that I was talking about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. Before I get into it, can you guys let us know in the chat if our volume is fairly equal and how the video looks, if it's pretty clear? Those are the things that we're trying to work on, and hopefully get you audio tomorrow morning for the intro. That stuff didn't happen yesterday. So anyways, here's what he has to say. He says there's no sleight of hand or persuasive argument capable of altering the fact that Lions rookie defensive tackle Mekhi Wingo is undersized for his position. Okay, I'm going to take this in chunks. I disagree. I disagree that he's undersized because he is the exact size of Aaron Donald, almost to a T. There is maybe a half of an inch that separates them in arm length. That's about it. Maybe 10 pounds of weight. That's about it. Other than, obviously, Hall of Famer, rookie. That's the big separation here. Wingo has a long way to go to get to, anywhere even close to sniff, what's coming out of Aaron Donald's shoes even. So, in my opinion, he's not undersized. I think that he's a tweener for sure. He's definitely not prototypical size, but I don't think that the term undersized can really be used here because we've seen guys around this height, 6 foot, 285, win in the NFL. And I think that if you have that dog in you, you can win. And I think that Wingo is already showing that he can win. And he plays with a lot of leverage. So I'll disagree with that first statement. He goes on to say, but instead of focusing on the limitations of his frame, the team is determined to accentuate and utilize the strengths of the 6th round pick out of LSU. Let's not forget that he wore number 18, and the embodiment of wearing what it means, to wear number 18 is that you embody exactly what LSU is all about and their football team, and just being full of that grit factor, right? That it factor. You go above and beyond on and off the field. And you display, what being an LSU Tiger is above and beyond all else. So, look, this guy's a leader. He's a born leader. And just because he was picked late doesn't mean that that's going to stop at the next level. But Justin goes on to say this. At the professional level, defensive tackles rarely come in smaller packages than Wingo, who measured in at 6 foot, 284 pounds at the combine. Obviously, still large compared to the average human being. The professional discrepancies are revealed as he goes through drills alongside teammates who are 3 to 5 inches taller and up to 40 pounds heavier. Throughout his football career, being undersized has only sharpened Wingo's attention to detail. The way he described it after being drafted is he's always felt compelled to do ordinary things extraordinarily. That's a great statement. So I've said this in different ways, but you have to make up for your deficiencies is how I say it. So if you're deficient in size, you make up for it in the small details. If you're deficient in weight, you have to make up for it in how your hand fighting is, or how quick you get off the line, or your pad level, staying low, working with leverage. These are all the things that Wingo is doing. And when he combines that with his ability to play at a high level, we see great things on the field. That's why his tape was that good. Justin goes on to say that at the combine, he showcased an ability to offset his size concerns with rare athleticism, demonstrated through an elite vertical jump and 40-yard dash results, particularly the 10-yard split, which is also what I look at more closely than a 40. His explosiveness is readily apparent. that helped him tally 7.5 sacks and 44 quarterback pressures the past 2 seasons at LSU, and has similarly shown up during his first couple of months in practice with the Detroit Lions. Here is a quote by the new Detroit Lions defensive line coach, Terrell Williams. The one thing I'll say is he's an explosive player that understands what his limits are, and he also understands what he can use to his advantage. He's an explosive guy with extremely quick hands. He can rush the passer, and I believe he'll be a good run defender for us. So I'm excited. Where we got him and what he's been able to do so far, I'm super excited about that player. Look, I'm excited too. I think that he's got a lot of untapped potential that is still within him that, it's going to be realized over the next couple of seasons. And this training camp is going to be our first taste of what Wingo and his potential is going to be. But I'm betting on Wingo right now. I think that he's going to have a unique season where, obviously he's going to have to carve out some time in a role in a very, what I consider to be a pretty loaded defensive line, especially with his type of position where he's truly a hybrid. Interior defender that also can play outside as a pass rusher and get inside pass rush ability. And utilizing those 3 techniques, I do believe that he's going to carve out a role that is maybe a little bit indifferent to just one or the other. He's going to be used in certain situations that the Lions feel are going to be able to accentuate upon his ability to get after the passer and also as a run defender, as they mentioned. So we'll see what happens there. Williams went on to say that he'll be used inside and outside. Simply put, when you have guys with position flex, it makes it tougher on offenses because they don't always know where these guys are going to align. His initial expectations for contributions from a 6th-round pick are typically low, and that should be no different here, with the Lions having plenty of veteran depth along the interior of their defensive front. What Wingo might be able to do, might be able to add to that mix should become clear during training camp and the preseason, when the pads finally come on and reveal how skill sets and classroom learning will translate. Final quote from Williams is, he's done a good job so far. He's really advanced for a rookie as far as just understanding how to use his hands, his pad level, how to rush, and where to rush. I think when you're a guy his size, you have to play a certain way, and he plays that way. We've been excited for his development so far. Eric, I'll kick it over to you. I know we haven't really seen anything yet out of Wingo, but if you were meeting Wingo for the first time and this is what you read, what would pop off right away?
Well, this is my thing. Brad Holmes, this is his 4th draft, correct? Mm-hmm. And he's had some 6th-round picks. The first year we thought his 1st round or 6th-round pick was going to be like an all NFL Super Pro Bowl guy, and that is Rodrigo. And at first it looked like it was going to happen that way, and now we're starting to see that he was basically only playing because we had no one else. And he kind of came back down to earth the last two seasons. And this year will be huge for Rodrigo. But we haven't really seen anybody like just jump off the page with 6th or 7th round picks from the Lions yet. We're hoping that Antoine Green comes on in his 2nd year, and I would just say to try to maybe temper it a little bit. He's a 6th-round pick, same with Mahogany. These 2 kids, they got a lot of hype behind them right now because I think they were such draft steals. I think that they were both predicted to go much, much higher. So I was reading this thing about Wingo the other day where most pundits had him going in the 3rd round, and he didn't go until the 6th. So there really isn't an explanation for why he fell so much, especially since he wore the number 18. He was a captain. He had the stats to back it up. He was hurt and then came back to play in his bowl game. So the fact that he fell so far might be a good thing, because that might give him that chip on the shoulder that he needs, like St. Brown did in the 4th round. We need more of that chip on the shoulder. I'm going to know every guy that went ahead of me. So hopefully Wingo's got himself a little list going there. and he's got a little black book, and he's taking receipts, and he's going to cash them in. That would be very, very nice to see.
But I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that he's going to do the same thing here and put all of, those rocks and chips as you collect them over time and they turn into boulders and you just become, I guess one track mind mode, right? You got to do one thing, and that's prove everybody else wrong while proving the Detroit Lions organization and yourself right. And I think that that's the right mentality to have. Look, this guy has a dynamic first step. He's got lateral range. He's very slippery when he's rushing the quarterback. And a lot of that comes from his compact size and frame. He's able to get between a tackle and a guard a lot easier because of his frame. It's some people look at this as a negative, right? As a deficiency. You can almost look at it the exact opposite way and say that, well, maybe this is something that can be used as a benefit to him because, the smaller guys sometimes are a little bit harder to corral, right? I mean, these big, giant offensive tackles and big guards, I mean, sometimes you would think that it would be easier to take on a smaller guy. Well, quite honestly, it's a little bit easier to keep a bigger guy in front of you. They've got the bull rush technique and they're, a little bit bigger, power and stronger, right? It's the slippery small guys that you can't get your hands on. And oftentimes you're creating a penalty because you end up holding them because you're just trying to get pad level, right? You're trying to get leverage. You're trying to get underneath them. And sometimes that just doesn't happen and flags come flying. So I see this as a benefit, especially when you're stacked up with guys like DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson. You've got some bigger guys along this offense. I mean, Marcus Davenport's a mammoth of a man too. So you can sneak him in. You could kick Reader down. Aleem could be out. Wingo goes in. Davenport on the right side. And you've got him sandwiched between two giant men that are most assuredly going to take a double team up, at least between Aiden and DJ Reader. And I see opportunity there. And I think that we're going to see some of those opportunities come to fruition this season. I just hope that he stays healthy and keeps working. I'm all in on Wingo, man. I really do believe that he's going to have a season. Given the fact that he was a 6th-round pick, he may not get a ton of starts. He may not get a ton of snaps. But I think that his snaps are going to be productive. And what I think about production, I think about what James Houston did his rookie season. The last 6-7 games of the season, very high production. Now, I'm not saying that Wingo's going to come in and snap off 8 sacks in 7 games, but what I am saying is his production is going to be high for the amount of snaps that he gets. So do us a favor, comment below on what you guys think about Wingo. Subscribe and like this stream so we can get it out to more Lions fans this morning, and they can get an opportunity to watch here. So next up on the roster, Lions offensive line is number 1. And I don't think that any of us really were surprised by this or the fact that it was going to be realized this season. Let me pull up this article here. So this is by John Macaroon. So I like to highlight some of the local writers, and John Macaroon does an excellent job. His article here, the Detroit Lions offensive line ranked number 1 in the NFL. No surprise to me at all. They have clearly the best offensive line from last season, just made it better this season. I don't think that there was a loss of Jonah Jackson at all. I feel like they upgraded. Graham Glasgow played a much better season than Jonah did last year, and now we've got Graham locked up for the next 3 seasons. And then adding a guy like Zeitler, who, he's still battling through some injuries right now, but once he's back and healthy, that's going to be a stalwart there on the right side. And then you have, Mahogany and Giovanni Manu, Kobe Sorsdahl entering his second season. We got some good backups. A couple of rookies, but I feel like Mahogany is probably going to be a little bit of ahead of the curve over Manu. And once Manu clicks, man, watch out. That guy's going to be able to take off. Before I get to this, though, let me get to the chat here. Jack2125 brought up a good point. Says Kalijah Kancey was 6'1", 281. Great point. I mean, a lot of people said the same thing last year about Kancey, that, he was undersized. Well, if he was undersized, why was he so highly sought after? It's because of what he did on the field, which is exactly the same type of things that Wingo has to do on the field. He's got to play differently. He's got to play to his strengths. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the height, doesn't have the weight, but he can use those other abilities and develop a skill set that is unique that can help him win. What else is in here? Roger Chappa says, and now with Mekhi Wingo, that has moved Mathieu Betts down the depth chart. I don't know. We just don't know on Mathieu Betts yet. Mathieu Betts, we're going to find out more about him in training camp. I think that we can't forget about Betts. We had a coach on from former coach from UBC on, and Paul Orzetti, and he was telling us don't sleep on Betts. Absolutely do not sleep on Betts. The guy is as good as advertised. Yeah, it's a big transition back to the NFL, but he's been away from the NFL. He had a taste of the NFL once before. There's no reason why he can't come in and play at a high level. I'm not sleeping on Betts at all. I think that Betts is going to show us, just who he is real soon here in a few weeks. Let's see here. What else did we have in here this morning about Wingo? Mike P says Wingo, smaller, lower targets are much harder to hit on the move. Quickness and strength is huge for smaller dudes. I firmly believe in the same thing, Mike P. I think that's a great take too. All right, so let's get to the Lions O-line. Eric, what's one thing that you were most excited about this offseason? Talking about the O-line, like some of the moves that we made, whether it be the draft or free agency. What really got you excited this year?
Well, there's two things. I'm really excited about Zeitler. That guy, when his wife was pregnant, having a baby, he's in the room doing foot drills. This guy takes it seriously. He knows what his job is, and he lives, breathes, and eats football. He made his first Pro Bowl after 9 seasons last year. He's an older guard, and he's getting it. And he did it with a really good team in the Ravens last year. And I think he is coming in and taking over for Jonah Jackson, who was kind of a polarizing figure for Detroit. We really loved him. We were all behind him. We wanted him to succeed. He was one of our draft picks, but he could just never stay healthy. He could never stay on the field. And it seemed like sometimes his effort wasn't 100% on every single play. It seemed like he took some plays off now and then, and he got beat for a sack or some really bad pressures that it really shouldn't have happened. And maybe it was injury based, maybe it was effort based. I don't know. But to me, it kind of polarized him with a lot of the fans. A lot of the fans didn't like him. Some of the fans really loved him.
I think he pissed off Dan Campbell throughout the season with all those little ticky-tack injuries.
Yeah.
Here you got Frank Ragnow playing on half a foot and a busted knee, and he's got a hurt thumb.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, get out there and do it. I think that he attempted to play, his final contract year the wrong way. Like, you want to go all out and put it all out. He ended up getting paid, so whatever. He got paid. I expected him to get overpaid, and I expected the Lions weren't going to retain him. They weren't going to overpay for him, and they did just that. But typically you want to go all out, right? And really, put as much tape out there as you can to stay healthy if you can, but at least to go all out and really earn your next contract. I think he did it the opposite way. He played more reserved, where he's like, I just don't want to suffer a big injury because I've got a big contract that's coming up, or potential big contract. And that's what he was trying to secure, was that next contract. And I feel like for those reasons, he didn't play with ticky-tack injuries, where other guys would wrap it, tap it, and get in the game. Jonah didn't.
He's like the guy that still plays in the bowl game in college, but doesn't go all out because he's too worried about the combine and what NFL team he's going to go to. He was too worried about his next team and not the team he was on.
Yeah, big mistake. But now he's back with the Rams.
Yeah.
Or back with Stafford at the Rams. So,
and I think they way overpaid for him. I really do. Because we got Zeitler on a deal for a third of the price and way more production, I can handle that. I'll handle more production, cheaper price every day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of offensive linemen got way overpaid this last season. Outside of Penei Sewell, I think that what Penei Sewell was paid was commensurate to the type of player he is, and he deserved every single penny. That is one player that I could sit here and tell you time in and time out, he deserves every single penny he just got. And I can't say that about every player. I just can't. Every contract that goes out, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, come on. You could shave $10 million off of that contract per season, and I would say that he still probably doesn't deserve it. But Penei Sewell deserved every penny, so let's talk about him first. John Macaroon's first paragraph here says, as PFF explained, when healthy, this is a quote, the Lions' offensive line was arguably the best unit in the NFL last season. Right tackle Penei Sewell was the league's highest graded offensive lineman, and Frank Ragnow earned the top spot among centers. Now, I don't know who exactly was quoted in that quote, but that was the first opening paragraph here in his article, or second paragraph. So let's talk about Penei Sewell for just a minute. Not only was the second-year pro PFF's highest graded offensive tackle, but he also led all tackles in total snap count across the regular season and the playoffs. In total, he allowed just one sack and committed only 7 penalties on the season. He earned a 95.1 run blocking grade, which was obviously as elite as it gets, and came in as the second highest run blocking grade for an offensive tackle, behind only the untouchable 2021 season from the next man on the list, Taylor Decker, since 2008. So Taylor Decker, obviously, he's been around for a minute. He graded out at an 81.1 overall. And following his 8th NFL season, Decker really remains a reliable blindside protector to Jared Goff. He's been steady in the run blocking game for a while, and especially inside Ben Johnson's offense. It just seems to work for him. Decker played a career-high snaps last season, 1,243. But he did show some improvement in his grades over what was considered a down season in 2022. He was also battling some injuries in 2022 and 2021. But he capped it off by an 81.1 overall grade, like I mentioned, his highest since 2020. So, again, Hank Fraley, man, is working wonders with these guys. I think that Hank Fraley is a big reason why this offensive line is where it is and why players want to come here to play. This article, I'll talk about the others here in just a moment, but his article goes on to say that Detroit Lions lost left guard Jonah Jackson in free agency, but were able to secure a veteran right guard in Kevin Zeitler. Graham Glasgow is returning for another season after a solid 2023 campaign. Another quote here, although the unit lost right guard Jonah Jackson in free agency, the Rams signed veteran Kevin Zeitler, who ranked... That can't be a good quote. That's a wrong quote. Yeah, that's not right, John Macaroon. The Rams didn't sign Kevin Zeitler.
Meant to say the Lions?
Possibly. So I'm going to skip that one. Yeah, I'll have to send him a message on that, see if he noticed that. That can't be a right quote. Obviously, it's not. So we'll go on to the next quote. They're talking about offensive line coach Hank Fraley discussed not having veterans like Zeitler and Taylor Decker participating much in OTAs and mini camps this spring. And this is what Hank Fraley had to say. We'll really get it when training camp comes up front, when the pads go on. We like to joke around. This is like being in underwear for us up front, D-line and O-line. It's tough. That's when we're going to join and get it. This is Hank Fraley, by the way. But the communication and how people see things, and when they were out here working together, how things are done. Not sure what that means. For someone like Kevin Zeitler coming here, I might be just a little bit different than it might just be a little bit different than how he was doing it in Baltimore, or I say it is a little bit different and it means the exact same thing. I have no clue what any of this quote is trying to say. Does not make any sense. But anyway, Hank Fraley is big on communication. And he says the communication was a big part for him, talking about Zeitler being around, and then for everybody to hear it. The new guys were brought in. I'm not even going to read this anymore. This doesn't make any sense. Let me go on to what I wrote. That I can read. So let's talk about interior Frank Ragnow for just a moment, and then I'll move back to Kevin Zeitler. So Frank Ragnow stands in the middle of the Detroit Lions road grading offensive line, and is a very effective tone setter for this group. He gets it. He gets it at a high level. I mean, this guy's making all the calls. He finished last season as the league's highest interior run blocking grade, 91.3. And part of this success really stems from Ragnow being half of the most lethal interior duo in the league, along with his teammate Graham Glasgow. On combo blocks, Ragnow earned an incredible 94.2 run blocking grade, and that's absolutely insane. And Graham Glasgow, I think, is a big piece to this, a huge piece to this. Matter of fact, I wanted him back in a really bad way. When I watched his tape, compared him to Jonah Jackson, and looked at their scores and their stats and the analytics and all the metrics and everything that's put together by various sites, Graham Glasgow beat out Jonah Jackson every single game, every single snap, it seemed. And there was no reason why a guy that's making $3 million should be beating out a guy that's now making, $30 million a year or whatever he's making. So Graham Glasgow is what I felt was a big reason why this offensive line had so much success last year. When guys were down, Graham filled in. He filled in at 3 different positions and played all of those positions at a high level. So along with Frank Ragnow, Glasgow is the other half of that best interior duo in the NFL. Glasgow and Ragnow rank as the only interior tandem to surpass a 94 plus grade on combo blocks, with the latter pacing all interior blockers at 94.5. So I think that speaks volumes, and why they wanted Glasgow back is he works so well with Ragnow, and he's able to fill in for Ragnow if Ragnow ends up going down. He's been battling a few injuries, so it's safe to say that we have our backup in our center, and we have a few good backups at guard and tackle if needed, as needed. Maybe this season we won't need him as often, but you can bet that we're going to see a few different formations this year. It happens every year. And I'm not worried about it. With guys like Graham Glasgow, Kevin Zeitler, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, and Penei Sewell, there's no reason to not understand that this is the number one offensive line in the NFL. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So Taylor Decker, let's talk about him for a second. The guy has just been an Iron Man, especially last year. I don't think he missed very many snaps last year. And he has been dealing with an ankle injury, he said, since college. And he finally got it cleaned up and fixed through surgery this offseason. He wants to retire a Lion. He wants to get another contract. He wants to play a couple more years. And I don't blame the guy. And I think that he is going to play his absolute tail off to get another contract with the Lions, even if it's a 1 or 2 year deal. It's just something that he can retire a Lion and stay with us until we get that new left tackle that he can bring in and train for a year or two to take over for him. And I really believe that a lot of our success is because of Taylor Decker and his chemistry with the rest of the O-line, because O-line chemistry is huge. It's such a big thing. You can have all the best players in the world, but if they don't have any chemistry and they can't work together, it's just not going to work. You can go out and pay for 5 of the best linemen there are, but if you bring them in and they can't work together and they don't have chemistry, they don't feel what the other one's going to do, it's just not going to work. It'll fail every time. And this, I really believe, through free agency and through the draft, that the Lions have got it right. They're doing something very, very right. So I watched a podcast the other day, and it was Locked On Cardinals, and they were talking about how the Cardinals are trying to take what the Lions are doing and use it with the Cardinals. And they're trying to build their O-line the same way. They're trying to build their team kind of like the Lions are doing. And people are saying that my microphone is echoing. So hopefully it's not echoing too bad. Hopefully you guys can hear it today, and we'll try to get it fixed later on.
I don't hear any echoes on my side.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't hear any at all. I mean, nothing's changed that I know. Now everyone's saying Eric has an echo. Let me check a setting. I mean, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
That I know of. Echo cancellation's on.
You guys still hear an echo from me?
They're saying that it's coming and going. That's kind of weird. I don't hear it. I usually hear it. So interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Let me shut.
Another small detail to try to work out. We'll get there, everybody, I promise. By the time the season comes around, this podcast is going to be rocking. It's going to be so awesome. I can't wait for you guys to see what Will has in mind, because it's absolutely incredible.
All right, so you're talking about Taylor Decker being, really he's kind of been the marathon man for this team. He's been around a long time, and he's a big part of the continuity that you're speaking to, and being able to gel as a unit up front. He's been a big reason why this offensive line had early success. I think that Penei Sewell is kind of taken over, slowly, but he's really taken over, the offensive line room. Like that's his room now. I mean, obviously he's the highest paid guy in the team. He's a leader, or highest paid guy in the room. He's a leader. But I don't think that that's a reason to forget about Taylor Decker. I mean, that's why you're highlighting the guy. He's done a lot for this team, and so much so that I felt like the Lions were in position, hopefully, to give him somewhat of an extension. For two reasons. One, obviously it helps with immediate cap situation if they needed cap, which they clearly didn't this year. They were able to negotiate everything the right way and to manage, locking down three, really big contracts and still end up with about $40 million left over. I know there's been some changes since to that number because of Cam Sutton, but recently back in April, they were talking about conversations being had between the Detroit Lions and Taylor Decker's agent. And I did at least want to mention that. There's obviously a lot of moving parts to this. And where does it make sense, to fit Taylor Decker in for another season or two or three? The Lions went out and grabbed a couple of rookies this year, both of which that can be tackles. But how quickly can they get to Taylor Decker's, level of play? I don't think that's going to happen next year or even this year. I just don't see it. So I think that you have to lock him up for a little bit longer and possibly get another offensive tackle extremely early next season or the season after, depending on how long, you lock up Decker. But here's what he had to say. He said, kind of entry-level conversations, base-level conversations. I think my agent and the Lions are on the same page. So it's very much an amicable conversation so far. But super early stages, nothing of substance really other than, okay, we're going to try to figure something out, whether it's multiple years or it's not. So, I think that Taylor Decker's on the back end of his career. I don't think that that's any slight against him, right? I'm not trying to be negative to Decker. He's getting up there. He's been playing for a long time. And if he were to be in a Lions uniform for another 2 seasons after this year, I think that's an incredible career. I think he's already had an incredible career, but I think that he wants to win the Super Bowl, and he would probably feel much better about retirement. They're so close, but I think that Decker's probably got 2 more seasons in him to play at a pretty good level. I just don't want to see the Lions really overpay for somebody that's on the back end of their career. He's kind of getting on that wrong side of age as an offensive lineman, and he's been battling a few nicks and cuts lately that maybe have detracted from his play a little bit at times. But man, he's still playing at a high level, and I do like to see him stick around for a little bit, because even if he's a little bit backed off of his high level play, the other guys around him are going to make him that much better. And there's ways to, shade your offensive tackle with chips or, sending your tight end in motion to help kind of block off the edge. There's many different ways to help Decker perform, but at some point, I think that you might see the switch of Penei Sewell going down to the left side. And I think that's going to be sooner rather than later. And maybe that's why Decker doesn't stick around as long. Sewell's still got another 10 years in front of him. The kid's young. So he's going to end up being our left tackle, I believe, at some point. I can't imagine that he stays on the right side forever, but he might be too comfortable. I don't know. Anything you want to end up with on Taylor Decker or the offensive line?
Sure. Think about this. So say that we win the Super Bowl this year.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be a high possibility that both Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker retire?
Probably.
They go out on top?
Probably.
What a great problem that would be to have to try to replace 2/5 of our offensive line. I'll take that problem.
Yeah, I think that I'd much rather have a Super Bowl than both of those guys, but it would be hard to part with both of them, man. Yeah. But Frank Ragnow, he's been through it. The guy's just been completely beat up, just as tough as they get. I'm sure he would love to get to fishing full time. And I want to go fishing with him. So, if he ever hears this, Frank, come on, I want to go fishing with you, dude. You got to show me how you catch all these smallmouth bass, over in St. Clair, because I've never caught anything out of that damn lake. Don't know why, but I just haven't. Haven't done well over there. So anyway, next up on the roster, what do we got? Kelce dapping up LaPorta. So tight end university was good for Sam last season. This year he did it again. And interesting conversation coming out of Travis Kelce, and what he was talking about with Sam LaPorta. So this is another article. Jeremy Reisman wrote this one prior to Detroit, where they were talking about what Kelce had said. So I'm going to take the quotes out of here. But here's what Jeremy Reisman had to say about this whole situation. He said, "We all witnessed the unbelievable rookie season that Detroit Lions tight end Sam LaPorta had. But sometimes it takes someone within the game to really put a big accomplishment into perspective. Last week at tight end U, which Sam LaPorta, Brock Wright, and Shane Zielstra all attended, All-Pro Travis Kelce was asked which tight end was the best down there in Nashville this week. Kelce's mind immediately went to LaPorta. Here's what he had to say. I've already said one F-bomb this morning, so I won't do it again. LaPorta had a effing year, dude, Kelce told the Bussin' with the Boys crew. LaPorta had a year last year. I'm pumped on seeing where he goes his second year, because his first year, he killed it. That was at the 3:30 mark on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. So kind of an offhand conversation on the sidelines of the event when Kelce recorded the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. He couldn't help but hype up LaPorta again, where he said this: "Dude, LaPorta is a effing stud. LaPorta is nasty. Those Iowa guys, they're all here. They've got it figured out." I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, as much as I like Travis Kelce as a player, he's a phenomenal podcaster. Great job on that podcast. But the fact that he's propping up LaPorta, I mean, someone that he's got to go up against. I mean, Kelce's on his way out, right? He's going to retire soon. This means a lot. Like to have, an all-pro guy like Travis Kelce, one of the best to ever do it as a tight end, to prop up a rookie, now in his second season. It means a lot. And coming from a guy like Kelce, I think that should now get rid of any shadow of a doubt just how good LaPorta is. There's no mistake as to why LaPorta was my number one tight end last year on my draft board, and why I pegged him to the Detroit Lions, because of what I saw in his tape. It wasn't just because Iowa guys, Iowa U or tight end U produces great tight ends. It's because of all the work that Sam LaPorta put in and the output that was realized on the field. I mean, he had an incredible season, but even before that, you can just tell he does get it, to Kelce's point. He gets it at a high level. And, he kind of comes off as a goofy dude. Like I kept saying last year, very goofy, funny, probably the class clown, if you will. But on the field, man, he's dead to rights. I'm getting after it. And he's just an operator. I mean, I throw that term out very rarely. He's an operator. He's one of those guys that just operates at a different level. So last year, LaPorta finished fifth among all tight ends in the league with 889 yards, fourth in receptions with 86, and first in receiving touchdowns with 10. His 86 catches were a record for any rookie tight end in history, and his 10 touchdown catches also tied a franchise record for a tight end. I believe that was with Charlie Sanders. LaPorta had this to say. I try not to put too much pressure on myself. There's 10 other guys out there on the field with me trying to execute their job at a high level, and I'm the other guy. So continue to execute, keep practicing, rely on the veterans who have had great seasons over and over and over, and just keep working hard. Man, shout out to LaPorta, dude. Guy's phenomenal. I can't wait to see what he does this year. But look, if he doesn't have 90 catches and 900 yards this year and 10 touchdowns, that doesn't mean that it's a failing season. I think he'll be utilized, more often than not. But I also believe that situationally, we're going to see some different things this year. What do you got to say about LaPorta?
I don't think we'll be able to stop LaPorta from duplicating what he did last year and even topping it. He just is different. I thought that Hawkinson was, a top flight tight end when he played with the Lions. I was so disappointed when we traded him away, but now I see why we did. We have a cheaper, younger, better version than Hawkinson. And Brad Holmes had the plan. Brad Holmes made it happen. And how he stole that kid where he did, I'll never know. Wow, what a draft pick. Absolutely fantastic to come in as a rookie and do that as a rookie. It just doesn't happen. And for Kelce to give him the props he did, that tells me that he's on pace to do it again in year 2. And he's going to do it again in year 2. He just gets open. So when Goff drops back and no one else is open, LaPorta is always open. So who's he going to throw the ball to? He's going to throw it to the open person. If he sees him and he's open, he's going to throw him the ball. And I thought it was really funny in that interview also that Kelce said with the upcoming receiver show that's going to be on Netflix that he didn't have time for that crap.
Yeah.
And he's not into it or something. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny.
He's done enough in the league where, he doesn't need to be propped up, and he knows who he is.
Yeah.
Look, I think Kelce's a phenomenal player, but I also believe that, he's at the tail end of his career too. I mean, age is starting to catch up with him. Injuries are starting to hamper him down a little bit. But he still had an incredible year last year. I mean, he's the biggest reason why that wide receiver room played as well as it did, because without him on the field, it's a much different team. You can completely shut down the Chiefs last year when he's not on the field. So J Mommy asked or said, didn't you already say that he's made around $26 million? Are we talking about Taylor Decker? So Taylor Decker's made he'll make about $70 million after next season, or after this season. So he's in a final year of his contract. He's making about $19.1 million, another $3.9 million next year that's attributed as a void year. But all said, he'll make about $70 million over 8 seasons. So when you look at those numbers, I mean, what are we talking here? We're talking less than $10 million a season, since he's been in the league. I think that's a pretty darn good number. If he comes back to, someone else's point in here, he might take a 2-year extension or a team friendly contract. Man, maybe he does, but that number's probably still going to be in that 15, 16, $17 million neighborhood, I would assume. I don't think it would be any less than that. Could be even close to 20 million. Is it too much to pay? Probably not. I mean, the Lions are able to do it right now. I would say on a short-term contract, yes, it's doable. On a longer-term contract, it would have to be much less. And Moonscar, yeah, I don't know if my mic would be picking him up because it shouldn't be. I can do this though. Let me try to. Eric, go ahead and say something. I want to make sure people can still hear you.
Yeah. So the podcast has been a lot of fun today, and it's been really awesome. I love it.
All right. So I just turned desktop audio off. They should still be able to hear you. If they can't, they'll probably let us know.
Okay.
And that shouldn't make a difference, but we'll see. It said it fixed it.
It said it fixed it. Yeah, right on.
So I don't know how desktop audio got turned on, but yeah, you and your gremlins, man, I swear.
It wasn't me. I didn't touch nothing. I don't
right.
touch. Once we start, I don't touch anything.
Shout out to Moonscar for coming up with that one there. So anyway, look, we're kind of going back and forth here on Taylor and Sam LaPorta. So Taylor Decker, I'm expecting him to be around for a couple more seasons. If the Lions win a Super Bowl, he's probably going to retire. That's just my guess. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but he's played a long career. He's got babies now. I mean, how much longer do you really need to play unless he felt like they're going to be able to go back to back? And
if you're going to go out, why not go out on top?
A lot of players don't, though. They try to repeat, and they don't. That's what gets them.
Yep.
So let's back this up. Sam LaPorta, in my opinion, will be the best tight end in the league in a couple of seasons. Could be this year, could be next year. I think he's on that trajectory that he is going to be the number one tight end in short order. I think it's funny when you look around the league at some of the other rookie tight ends that, all these people were talking about. Matter of fact, let me bring up some of their names. I can't remember them all right now.
Well, what's the one for Atlanta? The tight end that he went super high.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid. You had Michael Mayer, Luke Musgrave, all last season, right? Yeah. None of them are going to have the types of seasons that Sam LaPorta is having. And Michael Mayer was the one that was so highly sought after that I think he was probably the number one tight end on the draft board last year. Sam LaPorta completely wrecked him. I don't see that stopping. So again, there's obviously something that Brad Holmes saw that was different in Sam LaPorta versus all these other guys. And, he could have taken any one of those tight ends. We had the draft picks to do it, but he was confident in the fact that Sam LaPorta was the choice. Things were just different. When I watched the tape, there was different. I don't know why I see things differently than other people. I don't know if it's narrative driven, if it's just they come from bigger schools, so they've got to be, the better player. I don't get any of that. I look at the raw player. I don't care if they're all wearing white jerseys or any color jersey and you don't know what school they came from. I'm going to judge the player based on, and I don't mean judge negatively, but I'm going to evaluate the player is probably a better word based on their performance and what they do on the field. I'm not going to evaluate the player on where they come from, what school they came from, where they played, unless it's a big difference between Division I, Division II, right? If it's Big Ten versus Toledo, or Eastern Michigan or something like that. There's a difference in competition that you have to take into consideration. But when you start looking at the player overall, and what they do with tape and how they get in and out of their routes and everything else, Sam LaPorta can run a completely clean route tree. That is the one thing that I noticed about him is he was so clean in how he got in and out of his breaks. That's why he gets open. He's just clean. Amon-Ra St. Brown, clean, just really tight in how he's able to maneuver on the field. Those slight differences can make, that blip of a second that gets you open and Jared Goff sees you and the ball's in your hands. So shout out to Sam LaPorta getting propped up by Travis Kelce. Let's move on. I don't think that the last topic is on the board. It's not, but the last topic of the day here is, have the Detroit Lions assembled the best offense in the league, the most stacked offense in the league? Eric, before I even start reading any of this,
yep,
what is your opinion?
I say yes. I don't know how this how anyone could put this offense outside of the top one or two in the NFL, especially when you have LaPorta coming back. You have JMO, who should have a huge jump in year 3. He is the one player that I am predicting to have the biggest jump of anyone on the Lions anywhere is JMO. It's year 3. This is put up or shut up year for him. Either he's going to be a first round awesome pick or he's going to be a bust. I don't want to hear the bust word. I want to see this kid be a Pro Bowler. And I think that is what is going to happen this year. All we need is just a few people to step up just a little bit, because we were top 5 last year in offensive output. So getting to number 1, I don't think that's too far of a reach. Not at all.
So according to NFL.com, the Lions have constructed the NFL's most stacked offense. That's a question. Let's see what they had to say. And this is by Grant Gordon. And I'll give my 2 cents on it, I guess, when we're done here. But historic season was had by the Lions in 2023, following the doldrums-filled decades. The Lions roared to their first ever NFC North title en route to their initial NFC Championship game appearance since 1991. Much of the success came thanks to a Detroit offense that produced at every skill position, begging the question as to whether the Lions have constructed the most stacked offense in the NFL. Think not? Question. Well, NFL research argues that head coach Dan Campbell's pride of the Lions offers the most statistically successful skill players. That's big. Like that's big. In 2023, the Lions became only the second team in NFL history to see 4 players produce 10-plus scrimmage touchdowns in a single season. According to NFL research, that is. The feat, which matched the 2013 Denver Broncos, was accomplished by running backs David Montgomery, 13 TDs, Jahmyr Gibbs with 11, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown with 10, and the guy we just finished talking about, Sam LaPorta, as a rookie, 10 touchdowns. 3 of those players, St. Brown, 1,539 yards, Gibbs, 1,261 combined yards, and Montgomery, 1,132 combined yards, also had 1,000-plus scrimmage yards and 10-plus TDs or more each. The Lions were the only NFL team to have 3 such players, a mark tied for the most in a single season in league history. So I think that does beg the question, have the Lions assembled the most stacked offense in the NFL? St. Brown has become one of the NFL's top receivers. Montgomery turned into the best season of his career, and Gibbs and LaPorta were instant successes after dynamic rookie showings. If Jameson Williams realizes his first-round potential, Detroit could have another game-changing option for Jared Goff. And offensive coordinator Ben Johnson will have that as his disposal. The Lions offense has been a top 5 group for back-to-back seasons now, so perhaps the best is still yet to come. Detroit authored a campaign for the ages in 2023, winning its first ever NFC North title prior to the NFC title game, which the club collected 2 playoff wins, doubling its previous postseason win total since 1957. Plenty of the Motown magic was due to Detroit's dynamic offense. Can these new age Lions keep on cooking? There's been an off-season focus on improving the Detroit defense, but the offense that has ignited the team's revival must still maintain its potency, if not improve. Goff, last season, memorably opined that the Lions have plenty of standouts on their squad. They just don't get the attention. Now, it's getting more difficult to ignore the Lions. Horsepower is a big deal in the Motor City. No pun there, right? And the Lions have plenty of it on the offensive side of the ball. Goff and company keeping their foots on the gas, foots on the gas, really, in 2024 might well dictate whether the Lions are one-year wonders or remain kings of the NFC North and contenders to reach the franchise's first ever Super Bowl. This article is intriguing. Is it not? I think that when you really think about it, all of the different things that happened last season, just highlighting this right here, the Lions became only the second team in NFL history to see 4 players produce 10-plus TDs in a single season, a feat that matched the 2013 Broncos. I don't even remember who was on that Broncos team. And then also 3 of the players, Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, having 1,010. The Lions were the only NFL team to have 3 such players, a mark tied for the most in a single season in league history. So they tied a single season history with 1,010 for 3 players. And they also tied the Broncos for the most players with 10 TDs or more, with 4. And we have yet to realize Jameson Williams. We have yet to realize Jahmyr Gibbs as a true passing threat. We have yet to realize the opportunity that is still there for DPJ. Antoine Green, we don't even know who he is yet. There's still more weapons on this team that have not been utilized. Sion Vaki, a new addition this year as a running back. No idea what his potential is going to be. But I think that when you sit back and you ask the question, which team still has probably the most untapped potential? That's scary to think it's a top 5 offense from 2023, the Detroit Lions. Imagine if JMO goes for 1,000 this year and everybody else does what they're doing. This whole thing is you can't rest on your laurels, right? You have to improve because we are the what? Hunted. There's no way that every team on our schedule is not taking a harder look at the Lions this year and trying to figure out a way to beat us. And that's where Ben Johnson is going to have, new plays put in place for players like Antoine Green and players like Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam LaPorta and DPJ, guys that maybe aren't utilized as often to get them involved in the game plan. That'll help keep us different. If we're having trouble, if Amon-Ra's having a bad game, if Montgomery's having a bad game, even if Sam LaPorta is having a bad game, we've got to find ways to use other guys. Brock Wright is still that kind of up-and-coming tight end who's shown glimpses of the ability. He's obviously more of a blocking tight end, but there's a reason why the Lions went out and locked him up for 3 years, because they like his ability as a blocking tight end, but they can probably get him the ball a little bit more. Lastly, what I'll say about this is James Mitchell hasn't really done anything yet, has not come to the player we expected him to be. Is there an opportunity for him this year to grow? He's behind LaPorta and Brock Wright, so I feel like it's kind of a mute point here where he's probably not going to get the looks unless somebody ends up injured. But again, there's another guy that was highly sought after coming through an ACL into the league, hasn't done anything yet. So there's still guys that haven't done anything that we're, kind of sitting on the back burner for right now and just letting them simmer. And hopefully someday we get to turn that gas all the way up and see what they can do. So what do you want to say about the Lions assembling what is potentially the most stacked offense in the NFL?
Well, I got a question for you first. So James Mitchell, was he one of our tight ends that went to the tight end U?
No. According to the report, no.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense why all the other tight ends would go, but not him. Even Shane Zylstra went. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a guy that really needs to prove something, because this is basically a contract year for him as well. So,
I think this is the last year of his contract.
Yeah, his rookie year. Yeah, or his rookie contract. Yeah, so I think it's huge for him to have a decent season. Yeah. And in the chat, a lot of people were talking about Khalif Raymond, and a lot of people sleep on Khalif. He's a little guy. He's just a fast little burner, but man, he does everything. He does end arounds. He does every route in the route tree. He's consistent. He catches the ball. And to me, he's a real gritty player. And one thing that most people don't realize is he is pretty much best friends with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So the first Detroit Lions game I ever went to with Dan Campbell as the head coach, pregame, it was Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown doing every drill together, sitting on their backs on the ground, throwing a ball back and forth to each other, stretching with each other, talking with each other. When they were starting the game, they stood next to each other on the sidelines, talked the whole time. And I think what it was is St. Brown was absorbing everything he could from Khalif Raymond, because Khalif had a few years in the league already. And one thing people don't talk about is in the NFC Championship game, what was one of the things we were missing? We were missing Khalif Raymond. And I really think if had Khalif Raymond played that game, it might have turned out just a little bit different. Maybe somebody makes the catches instead of missing some of those catches. But as far as having the number one offense in the league, I really think the Detroit Lions are headed in that direction. We may not be number one yet, but by the end of the season, I wholeheartedly believe the Lions will have the number one offense in the NFL this season. And we're going to be the hunted. That's for sure. And isn't that different? Isn't it a good feeling to be the hunted instead of the hunter all the time? And Dan Campbell says, hey, we know where our front porch is. We'll be waiting for you. So come get you some. That's all I can say. It's going to be a fun season.
Come get you some. I could see that on a t-shirt. Come get you some. So I don't think it's any surprise what the Lions are doing. And again, I'm gonna go back to two statements that the Lions organization have been very proud to repeat. Trust the process. Follow and stick to the plan. In 2021, they laid out their plan. They developed their process. They have stuck to it. And because of those two things, the Lions are where they are today. Getting better year in and year out, drafting high-level talent that is making the field in season one. Oftentimes, people have conversations like this. Well, does a first-round pick really need to play in their first year as a rookie? Do they really need? Yeah, they do. They should, especially if you're a top 10 pick. Now, maybe after the top 15, things start to thin out a little bit. But for the Lions, it's, man, does our 6th round pick really need to play? Does our 4th round pick really need to play? And I think that the answer is there's a possibility they might, and they might play a lot. And we've seen that since 2021, where later round guys were getting a ton of action. And part of that was because our roster was so thin. And we needed guys to come in and play immediately. That's why guys like Malcolm Rodriguez got a ton of playing time in his rookie season. I don't think it was so much because he was that good. I think that Kelvin Shepard trusted him, and then what he did on the field was also pretty darn good. But now as things kind of level out and you start to add more players to the mix, he gets dropped down a little bit on the depth chart. As you continue to draft more guys, especially guys like Jack Campbell. So I guess where I'm ending with this is the Lions are doing the right things. And maybe it doesn't look right to all of us at the time. Maybe it looks funny. Maybe you scratch your head and you got a lot of questions like, Broderick Martin, what? Like, who is this guy? Antoine, a 7th round or 6th round wide receiver. What are we doing here? Look, so you got to take somebody. I mean, and to be honest with you, look around the league. How many 6th, 7th round picks actually play? Not many. How many 4th and 5th round picks actually play? Not many. How many become all-stars in this league? Very, very, very few. Look at what the Lions have done. When more than 50% of the guys they've drafted in all rounds are playing at a high level and a considerable amount of snaps. So you can't rest on anybody that has been drafted. You can't sleep on them. You have to expect at some point they're going to play a lot. And they just might produce at a high level. Last thing that I wanted to touch on, I totally forgot about this. I totally forgot about this. Did you guys hear the news about Jack Campbell? Did you hear it?
Oh yeah.
The how Jack Campbell was released?
What?
Yeah,
No,
you didn't hear about that?
the other day.
No. Jack Campbell got released.
What? Are you talking to some guy from Nigeria again?
Nope. Jack Campbell was released. And guess who signed him?
Ooh.
The Red Wings.
Oh jeez.
So it was making rounds everywhere. So ex-Oilers goaltender Jack Campbell was released. And then you can't make this stuff up, right? The Red Wings signed Jack Campbell like the next day. So it was all over the place. Like, Jack Campbell got released. What's going on here? The Red Wings hired what? So you just can't make it up, right? I mean, now we got 2 Jack Campbells in Detroit. And the third Campbell that's part of a Detroit sports team. So it was kind of funny when all this started coming up. Like, it was everywhere, and people didn't understand that it was hockey. So it was kind of funny. I was going to do a funny video, but I'm like, yeah, people are going to think it's clickbait and they're just not going to understand the humor. And
yeah, that was funny though.
Yeah. So
he did get married the other day.
Did he?
Yeah, he got married.
Well,
yeah.
Congratulations, Jack, on getting married. Yeah, a lot of Lions getting married. So Jared Goff got married. A lot of Lions having kids, and I think that's when, for some of these older guys on the team, that's when their career starts to settle down a little bit. They start to bring kids into the world, and then they realize that they don't get sleep for the first 2 years. It's tough. It's really tough raising a family, especially being an NFL player where you're gone, 9 months out of the season roughly. So anyway, good show today. We've got a few more topics online for tomorrow. But I want to give one more shout out to our sponsors of the page, Sports Spider. Please check out sportspider.com. Get all your sports in one place. I really enjoy this site. They do an excellent job. I usually have their links in all the descriptions. If you're a business that would like to advertise with Rockdown Podcast Network, we are accepting more applications at all different types of sponsorship levels. So this is a type of a sponsorship level. Well, it's not necessarily an ad read, but you can get, pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll type ad reads for 60 seconds. Most companies charge, $3,000-$4,000 a year, or a month, for that type of work. Rockdown Podcast Network has a flat rate fee, and we do things a little bit differently. So reach out to marketing at rockedon.com, marketing@rockdown.com if you would like to advertise with Rockdown Podcast Network. Doesn't matter what business it is. Could be a local business, a home business. Doesn't even have to be a business in Michigan. Anything that you would like to advertise, just give us a shout. We'll figure out a marketing plan for you. And then YOOPERLITES. So Eric Rintamaki is the owner of YOOPERLITES.com. Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about YOOPERLITES?
Yeah, so YOOPERLITES is your one-stop shop for everything rock hounding. From rock sticks to UV flashlights for looking for fluorescent minerals, anything you need, everything in between, we have it. Just visit www.youperlites.com or stop in the shop in Brimley, Michigan.
All right. And while you're out there in Brimley, make sure to buy a gremlin. I think Eric is going to start to stock these things and then put the gremlin to rest. We need to exercise as many gremlins as we can. All right, you guys have been great. Appreciate you joining the Rockdown Podcast Network this morning. Rockdown Detroit Lions, home of the Rise and Grind morning show. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Just so you know, on Thursday, of course, for the holiday, we will be off. I am going to try to do off the cuff tonight. I was trying to plan a makeup night tonight. We'll see how it goes. If I can't do it tonight, maybe I'll try to do collaboration with Chef on Wednesday. But we'll figure it out. We have a few things to chat about. But you guys have been great this morning. Thanks for joining and watching the Rise and Grind morning show. We will see you tomorrow.